Welcome to this new video where I'm going to talk to you about a game that's coming out in a few days, and that more or less follows the Driver formula. This game is called Samson, and it's a game that, like Driver, is mainly focused on driving cars, but it will also offer, like Driver 2, 3, 4, and 5 on-foot phases where you'll accomplish different missions that will allow you to progress through the game's story. Some people will say it's simply a GTA-like, but the fact that Samson focuses much more on cars and driving than on pure fighting makes me think it's more in line with a Driver game than really a GTA. So today, I'm going to give you all the important information you need to know, knowing that Samson comes out on April 8, 2026, and that's also the reason why I'm making this video. I'm making it to give the game a bit of visibility because, unfortunately for the game, the day it comes out is also the day when the Forza Horizon 6 previews will be released on YouTube. That means if you're interested in car games or racing games, on April 8, 2026, your YouTube is going to be filled with Forza Horizon 6 gameplay. Unfortunately, Samson may get little visibility. If discussing this game with you now helps increase its visibility, I think that's good. So, first, a quick reminder of the important information about Samson. It's coming out on April 8, 2026 on PC. For now, there's no release date for the console versions, but we know the developers are already working on them. Something to know is that this is a small game developed with a much smaller budget than a Driver, or of course a much smaller budget than a GTA. But it's developed by people with experience, since they're the developers of Just Cause. So it's already a team that's used to working on open-world games and games that involve driving. Samson will take place in an open world inspired by the United States, particularly inspired by the cities of New York and Philadelphia. Set in a period inspired by the 1990s, you can expect a particularly urban open world. It will be almost entirely city. From the different images we've seen, by the way, speaking of the images we've seen from the game, let me know what you think in the comments, but I think that visually the game really looks great. It's true that sometimes we hear about indie games that sound cool on paper, but when we see images, it really feels like we're playing games from an earlier time. I don't think that's the case with Samson. Sure, it might not be a total graphical knockout, but honestly, I think what is shown is actually pretty detailed, pretty nice. And the game's artistic direction is kind of a mix between GTA 4 and Driver parallel lines. I think there's a kind of cool vibe that comes out of it, so not only does it look good, but also, you should know that the developers didn't work on this game using an existing engine. They developed their own graphics engine, their own physics engine. And honestly, on that front, props to them, because it's very, very rare for games with smaller budgets than traditional 808 titles to decide to invest in their own engine. It will take place in an open world inspired by the United States, which will be free to explore however we like, especially to complete side missions, to find collectibles, or simply to go steal cars there and drive them. An open world that we'll also explore, of course, during the main missions, since Samson offers a story mode, a campaign mode, with a main storyline that the developers say will last about 10 hours plus 15 more hours if you do the side missions. So, in total, 25 hours for €25 since that's the official price. Who owes a lot of money to the local mafia? A mafia that will force him to carry out certain tasks, certain missions, to repay Samson's debt every day. And that's going to be the main loop, meaning that every day, we'll have money goals to reach in order to pay back the debt we have to repay. And every day, in-game, we'll be more or less free to do different activities that will be either suggested, mandatory, or optional, more or less risky, that will earn us more or less money, and that will allow us to pay back the money we owe more or less quickly. So that will be the main gameplay loop, which will focus on two things, one in particular. And that's the reason why I'm talking to you. It's going to be driving. We're going to use a lot of cars, in many different ways, whether it's for tailing someone or escaping from the police. Because yes, there will be police chases, and that's also good news because police chases in modern driving games are starting to disappear. There are very, very few that offer this kind of feature anymore. So sometimes we'll be chased, sometimes we'll be chasing other cars that we'll have to destroy. The collision and damage system is very realistic, which Samson wanted to showcase. Developers said the driving physics are designed to be realistic. We're dealing with a game that's not quite a simulation, so expect something in between, somewhere between a Driver and GTA 4. So realistic driving physics and also damage that aims to be realistic. Because every component of the car, like, I don't know, a tire, a wheel, the engine, the brakes, each component has its own lifespan, and each component can be damaged as you drive. Depending on collisions with other cars or walls, Samsung will have his own car. It's the black and red car that we see in a lot of the game's cutscenes, kind of a copy of the Pontiac GTO. But it's not entirely real. As developers said, the game's cars aren't licensed. That's normal. since it's now rare for brands to allow their presence in games with damage or violence. We'll discuss this later. Another key part of this game is the fighting. The cars aren't licensed, but they're inspired by real ones and have realistic designs. Like Cadillac, Chevrolet, Ford, GMC, mostly American cars, since, as I explained, the game takes place in the United States. And even though Samsung has its own car, you'll be able to take any car you come across by stealing it. It hasn't been confirmed yet how many cars there are, but there's still quite a bit of cinematic footage of the game, a lot of gameplay that we can post on YouTube in the coming days. And we can see that there seems to be a good variety. We also see that the driving physics actually look pretty interesting. You can see when it slides, or when there are collisions. Let's say the cars still have inertia, they have weight. And we won't be playing a game with nonsensical physics, with ultra-light, ultra-maneuverable cars. And fortunately, because driving will really be the core of the gameplay. By the way, since we're talking about driving, and since we mentioned the open world earlier, just a quick note. In the short gameplay clips, we can see that there are actually quite a lot of people on the roads. There's a lot of traffic. I'm pointing this out because I always see comments on YouTube when I talk about an open world racing game, from people complaining that there aren't enough cars on the roads. Here, honestly, it really looks like there's a good amount of traffic. So, yeah, driving will be the core of the gameplay, but like I was saying, that's not all there will be. There will also be phases where you'll be on foot, where you can get into fights with various other characters. You'll be able to go complete missions, collect their money, and pay off your debt that way. And by the way, just so you know, combat will only be hand-to-hand. You'll be able to use melee weapons, you can fight with your fists, but there won't be any firearms here. And pretty much anything you find on the ground, any debris, a pipe, a piece of glass, could be used to beat up your opponents. A skill system in the game, helpful for combat and driving, has been confirmed. However, details aren't confirmed yet, which is a bit disappointing. Share your thoughts in the comments. It hasn't been confirmed yet whether there will be a car customization system, which is a bit of a shame for a game where cars are really at the heart of its gameplay. Personally, I'm pretty excited to see how it turns out. It looks like a mix between Driver for the driving aspect, GTA for the atmosphere, and a bit of Mad Max, let's say, for the car combat part. I'm also excited to see what Liquid Swords, the studio behind this game, will do next. Even though they're former Just Cause developers, this is their first game. So, if it works, if it sells well, we can hope for more money, a bigger budget to make bigger games, and maybe come back in a few years with a more elaborate concept that will offer more gameplay mechanics, with more content, which could, you never know, maybe even rival Driver in terms of reputation. For anyone interested, I'll be live on April 8th for a 1.5 to 2 hour first look in the early afternoon, just to check out the gameplay, to talk to you a bit about the physics, see how the cars react, and everything that goes with it. So, don't hesitate to follow me on Twitch for upcoming streams. I'll leave you a pinned comment. And don't forget that you can also use Prime. Use your Twitch Prime on my channel to support me for free and help boost it. I'll see you tomorrow with the next video. Take care, ciao.